Welcome back to the High Vibe Honey podcast, a sanctuary for women who are done performing power and pleasure and are ready to live it. I'm your host, Katie Rogers, relationship, intimacy, and feminine embodiment coach. And this is the space where we drop the pressure to prove and step into our full spectrum power, feminine, magnetic, and deeply self sourced. Here we have raw, reverent conversations with sacred rebels, thought leaders, and iconic women who are redefining love, leadership, and success on their own terms. And today's guest is no exception. Today, I'm joined by a woman who is the very embodiment of it gets better with age. Dr. Joan Borden is a Western trained physician, a master in bioenergetics, and a true pioneer when it comes to energy, intimacy, and lifelong evolution of a woman's pleasure. In her 70s, she's having the best sex of her life. And today we're talking about what it really means to stay wet, turned on, and open to love and connection at every stage of life. We'll explore why most women disconnect from their body's wisdom way too early and how to reconnect with the truth, peace, and pleasure already living inside of you. This is going to be a juicy one. And Joan, I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Katie. I'm really excited to have a conversation about these topics because there's so much BS out there about what's going on for not just women of my age, which frankly, I don't really see. It's starting to be more of us out there talking and being fully
Yeah.
functioning. However, the cultural ideas that are really being promoted about women, our health, and our aging is it really disgusts me, frankly, because
Mm,
the people who most women go to for help with everything are not if we're looking at the stages, if when women are having their moon, you, let's start early. People think that it's normal to have clots. People think it's normal to have PMS. People think it's
mm,
normal to have, oh, I have these cravings when I have my moon or whatever. And that's really not true. It's all about dysfunction. It's like, you live a life for a long time that isn't nurturing you in body, mind, and soul. And your body says, no, I'm not having it. And so it does
mm.
these things. And these are all energetic patterns that I've treated people for years with this before I even did heavy duty, like big energy moving things that I'm doing now. And so, and then people are talking about perimenopause and oh my God, it's the beginning of the end. You're like going out to pasture and then menopause. Oh my God, what's going to happen now? Nothing. There's not going to be sex. There's not going to be
Yeah.
activity. I'm just going to be going down the tubes. And
Mm,
that's all such BS because the truth is, when you dance in energy, when you make your life about figuring out what your story is that you want to choose, because
hmm.
it's a choice.
Yeah.
And we don't think that. We think we're like locked in, and that's what the culture does.
Yeah, it's so interesting. Joe and I had a beautiful dinner recently, and so many of the things that we're sharing, like you say, these problems, they don't have an age attached to them necessarily for a lot of the time. We're experiencing a lot of the same things. And as you say, it boils down to this idea of how do you want to hold this thing? And for a long time, I was disconnected from my body. I didn't want to have a period. I carried a lot of shame around my menstrual cycle. And again, I really bought into this narrative that it was dirty, it was gross, it was inconvenient. And so I didn't want it. So I had the coil for about 10 years and didn't have a period in that time. And it's only now, probably in the last year, that I reconnected with my body, started my menstrual cycle again, reframed how I thought about all of that thing, and I'm having a completely different experience with my body. So I just love that you're sharing this message so powerfully. But can we start? I want to start, I was going to say at the beginning, but tell us a bit more about who you are, the journey that you've been from, and the work and magic you're bringing to this world.
Well, it's really been a journey. I have allowed, and it moves me. The
Yeah.
more I get in touch with myself, the more I have available for me and for the world. And I think for so long, I'm like everybody else. I had my family of origin traumas. I believe that we choose our parents in some
Yeah.
way
Hmm.
because of the fragments of our soul that are coming together to incarnate, to experience what we haven't worked out before.
Yeah.
And so I don't of course, as a younger person, I played the blame game about lots of things, like, oh, my parents did this, I had, all of those things. And then I realized that wasn't getting me anywhere. And I
Yeah.
don't think I really understood what was next, but I just saw that the road I was going down was not working. I've had a lot of therapy. I mean, I live in New York. Everybody has therapy here. It's like a thing. And I've done all of the self-development things, but it really wasn't until I would say I got so clear on what choice means. And that is a really big conversation for, I think, everybody, because when we don't think we have choice, then we're like a bottle in the ocean being bounced around from one place to the other. When we have choice, we
Yeah.
realize that there are directions we can choose, and we can see what it is that we are moving with by listening in a much deeper way. And that's the work I've done. And I got there by doing it on myself. I had a lot of traumatic incidences in life. I had an eye tumor, they thought was cancer. I was run over by a taxi, had 3 years where I was in and out of surgeries, and I had to teach myself how to walk again. And all of these things I could think, oh, woe is me. Oh, these terrible things happened to me. My husband passed, who was the love of my life. I was grief-stricken. And I took all of that and I didn't discount it, but I said, okay, but how do I want to spend my moments? And that's when life really shifted big time. And it was a journey.
Mm.
And so now, after having two husbands, many relationships, and I've been very fortunate. I think when we talked, I said, I just have a huge capacity for love. It's
Yeah.
one of my gifts, and I'm so grateful for it. And now at this age, I'm navigating an older relationship with someone. My partner is in his early 80s, and that's starting to bring a whole group of things into the mix. But the relationship situation is so clean for us now. And when it's not, we note it. We
Mm.
put a marker in it, even if we can't do it at the time. And I was never like that. I was very much in reaction, um, a lot of entitlement, and not really having the grace that I have now. But I think there's something about being able to look at your partner, not knowing where you guys are going, and
Mm.
things are not smooth, and giving yourselves the grace of even saying, well, this is not working for me as we're talking right now. I need a break. I need space. And then
Yeah.
coming back and talking, because I never did that. I was very much in reaction. I had a big anger problem when I was really young. And so, yeah, this is all very, wonderful now.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. And, having spent time with you, I really do feel that huge capacity that you have for love. It just radiates out of you. And I think that was one of the biggest shifts that I see in my own relationships and in others is when you can have the capacity to step back and in those moments when you are activated, still be able to see somebody else as like, oh, wait, you're still somebody who I love and respect in your wholeness. There's still all of that there. I still have love for you. And something for me is activated right now. So let me take a step back while I navigate this and we can come together again and work this out. Because there is, I feel, a real sense of urgency a lot of the time for a lot of people, where it's like, we need to get this sorted, we need to do it now, even though I'm really dysregulated and I'm really activated, and so are you. And we're forgetting that we're two people that actually love each other and actually want to build something together. So I love how you're navigating this now.
Yeah, no, what you said is so clearly the place I'm at. And
Yeah.
it really is, it's a gift. I
Mm.
mean, it's a gift to walk around life and not be in reaction.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that is the biggest thing that I would hope that the kinds of conversations we're having here, the kinds I have with the younger members of my family who are in a different energetic space.
Mm.
And that is great. That's fine. But to know that what exists on the other end is possible, that to have something to, like what we've just been talking about, to know that exists, because when you don't have it mirrored in your own family of origin or however you're brought up, then
Mm.
you look around and you see mostly people who are dysregulated, and you think that's the way
Yeah.
until you realize that's not really feeling that good. And for me, I looked around and I said, well, I really need to do a lot of self-leadership work here. I need to do a lot of nervous system regulation. I need to do a lot of these things. It's all well and good to feel you can dance with energy, but if you don't have these other pieces, then
Mm.
the energy is dysregulated.
Yeah. And when you're dysregulated, it's really, the mind can be very convincing. That's the last time. The point where you want to trust your mind is when you are dysregulated. So having the tools to actually be able to come back to that. And one thing that I love that you shared in this as well is this idea that it could be very easy to buy into being a victim of your circumstances and your parenting and your experiences, and to think life is hard, things are hard, and create a picture around that, versus the radical self-responsibility that I see you taking on of, if I want my life to be different, then I got to be different. If I want to experience a different kind of relationship, I've got to show up differently. If I want to experience a different thing with my health, then I've got to do something about that too. So, can you share us more about the journey of evolution that you have been in, and yeah, what your earlier relationships have taught you about love, intimacy, relationships, and if there's any advice you would go back and tell your younger self now?
Oh, so much. And
Mhm.
I tell the young people in my family, my great aunt, a great grandmother, a grandmother, a stepmom. So I have a lot of relationships with younger people in my family. And
Mm.
that's really what prompted me to really come out as a uh, fully expressed person online, because this was not normal for me. I come from brick and mortar, very regulated. You're a doctor. Went to dental school. I made several large practices in Midtown Manhattan. I sold my businesses. Then I did some other things. And then I just said, I really have to share my journey because too many people are suffering needlessly. And so it
Yeah.
started because I thought I just wanted to tell the kids who are in their 30s and 40s, your age, in my family. And they weren't all that interested at that time when I started, maybe 4.5 years ago.
Mm.
And so I said, well, I'll just put this out to the world. It was just a crazy lark. I had no idea what I was doing. And I just said, I need to tell people what I know. And so what I've learned is that whatever we think is a story. And when I really understood that, and I said, well, I could make up any story I want. That was like, what? It's
Yeah.
not. I'm not a product of my circumstances. I am a product of who I choose to be in each present moment.
Mm,
And that changed my whole life. Now, did it happen like that? No. It
mm,
happened more like I got knocked down. I picked myself up and I said, this didn't really work well. How else could I form this? What else could I
yeah.
think about this? Because for a long time, I felt like this was just what my life was. I
Mm,
had these feelings. And I think that was also a big part of my evolution was when I understood the difference between my transient feelings, which seemed like everything to me,
mm,
and my alignment with who I really am inside, the me of me. And I'm a big person in Taoist philosophy and medicine. And so in Chinese medicine, there's a energetic group of pathways called divergent channels. And what's interesting about them is that they're really how we are embryologically grown, how when you think about it, so there's a sperm and an egg comes together, it gets implanted. But then how do we create a structure that can hold all of the things that we need to function out of the womb? There's a wrapping. And
mm,
in that wrapping of our bodies, in other words, there's the first wrapping is called the Chiang Mai. And that's this wrapping that gives us the first interior space to start putting things in. And why this is important is because for me, it signifies the me of me, the you of you, the us of whomever you are. It's the first sense of individuality.
mm,
And when we can go back to that core space for ourselves, that's where the magic happens. That's where we see that choice really exists. And I have to really say again, it's not, for me, it was not an easy find. I
mm.
heard for years, I put myself in rooms and classes and mentorships where I kept hearing choice, choice, choice. And I was like, okay, I hear choice, and I really don't know how to get there. And that was when I just started really small. I said, you know what does it mean to keep a promise to myself? And that was a really important space.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, we have this sometimes this misunderstanding that everything outside of us is what dictates who we are, how we behave. And as you say, when you bring that power back to you and back to like, this is the only space I actually have control in. So what do I want to do here? What do I want to do to clean up some of this stuff here? And as you say, like we have our perception of the past, but we can actually change the past. And when you kind of understand this, it's like such a cheat code for life. I feel like it makes things so much easier. And then when you can do that and you go through it, but it's not, that doesn't, I don't always remember that. I always, it's easy to get caught up in the, oh my God, I forgot how much power I had. Oh my God, I forgot that I don't have to hold this in this particular way. And so for as long as I was holding on to things, for example, the shame that I was carrying around working in the adult entertainment industry and the shame I had around my relationship and fear around all kinds of things. But as long as I was holding it that way, it didn't feel good. And it was actually the sort of negativity of my past that was projecting into my present and into my future. And then when I started to shift that and reclaim the dignity in my story, reclaim the power in it by looking at it from a different perspective, that's when things just started really taking off for me because I changed the past, not by physically changing what had happened, but about changing how I held it. And it was only me that would ever be able to shift that perspective.
That's so beautiful. And clearly, what you did was you changed your story
Yeah.
because everything is a story. It's
Mm.
just totally our story to write because we have this, and that's really where I started coming into this energy space in a very different way. I mean, I've been doing energy work for 30 years,
Yeah.
moving energy, doing all kinds of things, having some connections with other realms, and all of those things. But it wasn't until I so clearly used perspective to constantly shift to where I felt in the most alignment. And that's what I
Mm.
do mostly now. And it came about because I just keep shifting my perspective until I can see more clarity about my what I really want, what feels in alignment. What is that? We don't think of it, but why, how is it? And maybe it's because of having the age of 74 now, I have space to really see behind. And
Mm.
so I see that choice has always been there. And people have said that with thought leaders and with philosophers.
Mm.
However, most people just don't see that. And how do you see that? That's the work I've been really steeped in now. How do I see it for myself as an ongoing process? Not, I'm going to do this one thing here. I have an upcoming challenge that's starting a week from yesterday. We're going to do 10, really plus a Zoom start kickoff. So 11 days of neuroplasticity and frequency prompts. And
Mm.
why am I doing that? Because this is the way I live my life, and I have coached clients to make choices by doing this. Because when you are playing the perspective shift game, then all of the would have, should have, could have's, I'm a victim, everything just falls away because you
Yeah.
see more clearly that these are all, it's a banquet. I wake up every day and I'm grateful because as a young person, I was depressed. I had a time where I don't think it was real, but I did try and kill myself at one point when I was at home with my parents. I was so miserable as a teenager that it was a cry for help. I took a bunch of aspirin and, they made me throw up and called my uncle, who was a physician. And then I got into therapy and they realized how miserable I was and all of that. But I come from a place where I was so dis I would say my soul felt unheard in life. And so as I started to open up the space to really listen to that observer that we all have, I mean, this is the place that really our greatest work, our greatest thoughts come from. But we kind of push it aside. We don't even hear it most of the time.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's so powerful. And it really sort of brings back to this point around, that part of you, that version of you, she didn't felt heard, she didn't feel love. And the only space that she'll ever be able to get that, where she'll ever be able to feel that, is from within, from her own self. And it's about this space of wholeness, of no wonder we don't feel complete when there's parts of us that are either we haven't had the opportunity to fully develop, or we feel are missing and we think live outside of us. We think, if that person heard me, if this person loved me, then I could be okay. But actually, until you can learn to integrate that love and feel it for yourself, you won't be able to be kind of on the frequency of that to some extent. So someone might be sending you the frequency of love waves, but you're not able to receive it or feel it because you haven't created that same vibration to some extent. And that's not to say you're not worthy and deserving of love until you can love yourself. I don't like that phrasing of it. But the sense that you love yourself first allows other love to pour into you so deeply, so that when others give it to you, you really feel it. And it sounds like that powerful journey allowed this version of you to be so loved and loving and nurturing. And now you just pour out this most beautiful energy. So, what a journey.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's been a big journey. And as I've learned how to dance in energy, eh,
Mm,
because it's so interesting that we can, I think of it like going to the train station. And what line are you going to take? What frequency do you want to put yourself on? Are you going to a place out there, or you're going in this direction, or what are you
mm,
choosing that will create the most smooth, healthful, and that's a judgment, but by judgment, I see health as path of least resistance,
mm,
because under the guise of love and kindness, because it's not always that way if your heart is not in the space of that. But within that context, that's what I do all the time. I just kind of find my path of least resistance, and that's both clearing clutter in the body and the mind,
mm,
and then the observer, the soul, our purpose, whatever that is. And when we can clear the clutter, it's really biologically easy to see because we're using less of our life force to navigate the function, both physiologically,
mm,
biologically, and mental, emotionally. And then, you could put the soul stuff on as well. But just those very basic things, when we're having all kinds of dissonance in our bodies because
mm,
maybe we're not moving, we're not eating the things that will nourish us. And it's different for everybody because it's all energetics. People think that, if you have clean food, if you have these foods and follow this diet, this will work the best. And that's all BS, because if we can't go inside ourselves and figure
mm,
out what, and this is about, I always think of it as how do we, and this is the work I do with my clients and myself all the time, is okay, what is going to create the most smooth movement in my body?
mhm,
That's where I start, because the body is, for me, the easiest place to begin because of my background. And also, I'm very clear that whatever is in my body has a mental, emotional, and spiritual aspect somewhere in the mix. I may not see it, I may not have an idea or clue about it for the people who are really just beginning this journey. But if you go into your body and you start to listen deeply, that's where the clues come. If I were to say anything to anybody listening to this, the biggest transformation you are going to find, the biggest bang for your buck in really doing any kind of self-development work, is by listening deeply to what's physiologically being cued to you in your mind from your body.
mm,
I have a feeling in my leg. I have a feeling in my gut. I'm pooping, or I'm not pooping, or I pee too often, or I can't fall asleep. Or what
mm,
are all the things? My sex isn't good. I'm doing everything for everybody else and I feel resentment. Where is that in your body? Go there. This is
mm.
my signature move for everything. This is this big secret, everybody. You
Yeah.
go to the place in your body that you have some sense of.
Yeah.
You may not be able to name it. Who cares? Who gives a fuck? Don't worry about that.
Mm,
Go to the place that is your first place of awareness in your body. First, come to a little space of peace.
mm,
However, whatever that means for you. Sit quietly, take a few breaths, and then just start at the top of your head and say, where is my first place of awareness? Go there.
yeah.
In your mind's eye, take a big, deep breath. Instead of on the in breath, doing a release. My suggestion, which works the best for me, and this is what I teach my people, which is everybody in the world who wants to hear this, because why wouldn't we? Is
Everything that I hear about your work, I'm like, it literally is for everyone, for everything. So I hope you are listening.
it really is, and I'll mention something after that about that. So,
Yeah.
um, and then I go in, I do this all the time for myself. It's like on autopilot now. Wherever I feel something, I take a breath, and on the exhale, in my mind's eye, I am actually manifesting space in my body where the place of awareness is by
Mm,
imagining that I am blowing air into the space. And I think of a dustbuster, but instead of sucking up air, the dustbuster is pushing air out into the space of awareness.
mm,
And three things will happen. One, nothing. And that's okay. That
yeah.
is a real thing that people have to understand, that
Yeah.
sometimes you do things and there's nothing noticeable happens.
Mm,
And how do we stay open to whatever possibility may happen?
yeah.
That's our co-creation part with the universe.
Mm,
Two, the space of awareness goes somewhere else. It moves. And you can go into that new space and do something. Or three, you may feel a slight softening. You may not even be able to say that, but you feel something different. And then you go back and you do that. There are times where I'll just, play the game with myself where I have a lot of head and neck tension from all the things that have happened to me or for me, really, because I
yeah.
am not sorry about anything in my life. Zero. I,
Mm,
in a moment, may feel, oh, I really said something I'm not really happy I said. And, I did the best I could, and now I can rephrase.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think those things are super helpful for anyone. And that's been a big part of my journey, just to do the kinds of things that will move stuff that doesn't work for me.
Yeah, so beautiful. And for so many of us, we get used to this idea of just living up in the mind space and thinking that's where we have our power and that's where we have control. And we're very distracted by the senses that we're experiencing that we forget to bring that attention inward of, like you say, like, where am I actually feeling this in my body? What is actually happening with me? And being able to be with something as a sensation versus being with it as a story and working there. And I think that is where we have so much power. It's like we think we have this control, but actually we're just playing in the shallow end of the pool. And when we start working from the neck down, oh, okay, now this is where the biggest shifts are coming. So moving into somatic work for me was mind blowing, to be honest. Is why it's a big part of the work that I share now. Um, and I love how you talk about working energetically with people. And you've shared some incredible stories with me about how you can spend very little time with somebody and work in their energetic field and do some work that allows them to then find their soulmate partner within 2 weeks, or to be able to manifest, what was it, £25,000 in 24 hours.
Funny. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's
share
crazy.
with us some more of your client stories, because I'm so curious about how this work plays out in practice too.
Well, it's so interesting to me and it's very, I've had these gifts for a long time. I I didn't understand that not everybody had the facility with these things that I had. And I think people have it, but I think that it's not expressed because it's not part of the conversation of life. It's
Mm,
still thought of as non-science, woo-woo. But the reality is all we're doing is science when we're moving vibrational frequency,
yeah.
because it's physics. We're moving something in space and we're creating a different outcome because of the way the particles of the vibrational frequency are being uh, what track they're being put on. We'll go back to the train station.
Mm.
now for me, I mean, it is an incredible gift to feel something I'm feeling that doesn't feel good because I'm human like everybody else. I have
Yeah.
all my same stuff. But then I just say to myself, okay, do you want to feel this for how long? How much
Mm.
of my life force do I want to give to this? And that is very clear for me because I pretty much don't want to give anything anymore. I'll give a little bit to soothe the experience, and then I'll go, okay, which frequency do I want to take the
Yeah.
ride on now? And I actually move those things around. And
Mhm.
to me, it's still shocking that I can do that and that everyone can do that.
Yeah.
It's just shocking. And what it takes is presence, just like
Mm.
what is listening. I'm doing something with one of our Vortex sisters, Maria, in the Worth Room this week. And so I really didn't understand exactly what I was doing in there because just like everybody else, I have so many things happening in life. And I was like, what am I doing in here, Maria? So yesterday was really about stories. And she asked me a number of prompts, but they didn't really work for me. So of course, I always go rogue because I go with what I feel in alignment with. And
Yeah.
that's how at 74, I'm having the best sex of my life. I'm having the best relationship, even though I've had huge love and great relationships. But now I really am so embodied in who I am. And when it's not working for me, to really create movement and
Mm.
say what I want, what I need, and listen, because it's
Yeah.
not always the same for the other person. It's not like it's me, this is what I have to have.
Yeah.
Well, maybe this person can do that with you, or maybe they can't. And then you have a conversation about whatever. But it's all moving parts. I think that's what I never understood. And that's what is such a epiphany for my clients is they all of a sudden get that I can use a tuning fork and I can change neuropathy in my leg or my foot. I have head and neck tension. Well, I could do every day instead of getting pissed off that I
Mm.
have to do a relaxation movement to relax my neck. I could say how grateful I know that to do
Mm.
because we are human. We are in a human experience going from birth to death. And,
Mm.
we are all walking each other home. That's a very poetic, beautiful quote that's been out there. I forget who first said it, but it's to me, it's beautiful because it allows us to have the grace and the momentum because
Mm.
we are like these little fragments of our being that get born. And every moment, it's so moving to me that we have this gift of life.
Yeah.
It's so big. And I think that I never used to cry. It's incredible because now I cry all the time. I do a class, I'm always, I'll well up because things are,
Yeah.
I wouldn't use the word special, but they're so remarkable to me that we have this really gift of this machine of us, this bioenergetic machine that we get to play, basically,
Yeah.
when we understand that we are, and I say it's a co-creation because there are things I'll never know, there are things I can't do, and I don't know what they are because I don't see my life like that. I
Yeah.
just do it. And then I see, oh, well, this worked, or I thought this, or this didn't, and what else? And what are the other things I can put out into the universe, which is where we come to manifestation. And uh, it's a very big conversation because then, it's like you were saying before, and I agree totally with how I feel. I don't like the idea, oh, if you don't love yourself, you can't manifest, or you don't love yourself, you can't live a good life. I don't know anybody who comes out of the womb and is there and is like, I love myself no matter what, and I
Yeah,
am,
unconditionally. I'm good.
and yeah, and all of this. No, if we did, I don't think we'd be born. I think we're
Yeah.
here to really learn whatever it is that we're going through, and
Mm.
how we dance in that is everything. Do we hold it in a way where we feel wrong? I used to feel wrong all the time. I used to feel like, oh, I made a big mistake. Oh, I did this. I did that. I shouldn't have done that. I should have done it this way. BS all over the place. I mean, just let the fuck go. The
Yeah,
truth is, why do I feel this way now? Why was I able to like get out there on that stage and just feel totally free and happy? Is
yeah,
because, I've lived a long time. And after a while, you get the program, you get the idea. And what's why I'm here talking to anyone who will listen now is because why should you have to wait? Why should you have to suffer?
yeah,
Just get it, try it out at the beginning. Say, okay, I feel like shit. How do I want to feel? And what
yeah,
would that look like? And how would I dress? And how would I eat my food? And what food would I eat? And how would I talk to people? And how would I like to be talked to? I mean, it becomes a whole theatrical production. And that's where the juice is.
Ah, I love this. Yeah, I think sometimes people do get attached to their pain body and we want to fuel our pain body. And there is parts of us that like being in pain. There's parts of us that like being the victim. And so we accidentally fuel that. And one of our mentors, Shoshana, she says about how we get all kinds of thoughts come in. And the thought of I'm not good enough, I'm not lovable, or whatever conditions you place on success, happiness, whatever else. She's like, it's just spam, just don't click on that. Control Alt
Exactly.
Delete, just get rid of it. And it becomes a practice because at first it's very easy to click on every thought that comes in the brain. And as you say, then we get this huge sense of clutter that disconnects us from our power because we're looking at that, we're clicking on the spam instead of following our desire, following our pleasure. And this is one big shift that I've made recently is moving from this space of pleasure being as a reward or pleasure like if I deserve it or that goes at the bottom of my to-do list versus no, pleasure is going to fuel everything I do. Pleasure practice every day for me is now like a non-negotiable, and following my desires and having this space to not be clicking on the spam, to be able to let that drop in and to be able to follow that. And I never would have believed myself before listening to this story that that is actually the thing that is guiding me to better things than I ever imagined, because I was very attached to my pain body and I wanted the suffer struggle to some earned reward that comes in the future. It doesn't work like that. So I love how you're articulating and sharing all of this. And one thing I wanted to pull back on as well, you're talking about wetness and you're talking about um, how you're how we're working with the body. And you mentioned in when we met in Living Brave Alive, you did this beautiful mini masterclass on one swallow at a time. Can we talk about that?
Oh, I'd love to because and this totally relates to what you've been talking about because
Yeah.
and it reminds me to mention because this is a very big part of my journey is pleasure.
Mm.
When I realized that my pleasure was my soul guidance system,
Yeah.
my SES, I said, "Oh, this is what this is about."
Mhm.
So I don't remember if I mentioned this to you when we had our dinner, but during COVID, when people were not doing much, I just gave myself a PhD in everything pleasure. I learned bondage, I learned this, I learned that. I did everything because
Yeah.
it just was something that I just said, oh, this is going to really be part of my journey. And not
Mm.
that I hadn't had sex in my life, but holding pleasure in a totally different way as my birthright is what really has driven all of the things that I do. Because
Yeah.
and you talk about and I was mentioning about when I didn't feel good about something. And what I do now is I think of my pussy as a bank, and I
Mm,
just drop stuff in there to alchemize it. It's like I just see it in my mind's eye. It's like this is a very old movie, way before your time, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. But it
hmm
was someone who was really just, I don't even remember the movie, but that's how I feel about my pussy, is that this is here for my delight and pleasure and to help my soul figure out where I'm going. So,
mm,
and this is why the neuroplasticity challenge, because this is what I do all the time. It's what you were talking about when the thoughts come, and the spam and Shoshana and all of that. Well, they come all the time, especially when you start pushing them to come. And by
mm,
changing the way you do repetitive behaviors, because when you change a repetitive behavior, all of a sudden everything in your life changes. And what that means is all of those thoughts that you thought were tucked tight away, that really you have no sense of their real presence, start popping out all the time. The
yeah.
spam. They're constant, especially because I've been setting up for this neuroplasticity challenge. I'm like on the fast track to boom, boom, boom. And
Yeah.
it's like everyone, boom, boom, make a nice deposit. And that's really, I mean, we don't think we can alchemize things in with our sexuality, but that's the best place.
Yeah.
It's because our body knows that instinctively, whether or not we have had fabulous sex or not. But when we start understanding that we are, and this is not correct English, but we are the choosers of our life. But that's the
hmm
word that I really needed to say.
Yes.
We make the choice. We are the choosers. We are the choosers of everything that we have impact on. And the
Mm,
rest, you know, big deal. You know, I mean, okay, so what? Just do what you can in life, clear the clutter, have pleasure, follow your guidance, and really that's everything. And all the other things are just here, I think, I don't know if this is true or not, but it sounds good in the moment to wake us up.
yeah. I can very much believe that. And something that you said earlier as well is about this idea of this thing happened to me. And then you said, oh no, it happened for me. And
Always.
yeah, and then you get to see actually life is always giving me the raw materials that I need to spiritually evolve. And whether that comes through sex, relationship, business, whatever other avenue, you have your temple for your spiritual evolution. And that is where you're actually getting the wisdom, you're actually getting the materials to work with. And then it's how do you choose to do it? But when you can reframe, and it's like, oh, that happened for me, then that's where you transform your shame into your power, your trauma into your triumph. And you get to hold that in a different way. As you say, you are the chooser. So what do you choose in this moment?
That's the key. Uh and I'm really here to be a poster person for don't wait to live your life. Don't wait until you feel free. Just take it.
Yeah.
That's what we think we need permission. We
Yeah.
think someone has to say, you can do this, you can take this, you can be this. No, it's like you see it, you want it, claim it. If it doesn't work out, make a different choice. Don't make yourself wrong. Don't make yourself wrong for anything in life. Just say, oh, I made this choice. What else am I going to choose now?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like it's all going to plan. I did what I was meant to do, and now I can choose to do something different, and that's okay.
And things come to us, I think, repetitively until
Yeah.
we really see. I know that happened for me, and sometimes they're pretty violent things where, stuff happens that's really unpleasant.
Mm,
And so you can either say, okay, I got it finally, and
yeah.
that's okay for whenever this was my soul time to get it.
Mm,
not I should have seen it sooner. I should have done this before. I should have, could have, would have. I mean, those
yeah.
things like
Don't
X
click on
those
that
things
spam.
out. No. And just
Yeah.
keep thinking that life is here as a gift.
Yeah.
It really is. I mean, it's a total gift every moment. And because I'm closer, I have more in back of me than ahead of me now. And that perspective is very useful because I remember years ago, my mom would say something like, well, because people were dying, and she goes, well, it beats the alternative, whatever was going on for her, and
Yeah.
she had some serious illness. She was still alive. She was still having life experience, and she said that. And, I think we all can look at that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Can we bring it back to the one swallow at a time
Oh, yeah.
and talk about the method on that?
Well, this is for anybody who's listening, who's dealing with transition, hormonal things, anybody who has anything that is not flowing smoothly for them. So I remember being in a townhouse that I was renting close to a dental school where I was going in Baltimore. And I would look out my window, which was beautiful. It had a nature view. And I was in so much pain. I woke up every day feeling pain in my jaw, pain in my head, um, just physical pain.
Mm,
And I was grinding the hell out of my teeth every night. I was chewing my life away. And sure, I was in dental school. I knew what was going on. I, of course, had a bite guard so I wouldn't crack my teeth, which is helpful. However, I just thought, this is effed up. I'm in dental school. This is all about, and we don't think that we are big antennas receiving our world because
mm,
where are most of our senses? In our head and neck. I
mm,
mean, our body has sensation, but apart from that, our ears, our eyes, our nose, our throat for ingestion, we
mhm,
are really big antennas and we are receiving constantly. And we're also exhaling our lives. But the receiving is under something that sometimes we have a lot more say so in than other times. And so this wasn't really, I mean, I had this problem ongoing. I was in a shopping center parking lot, and it was exacerbated by someone running into me. I couldn't get out of the space I was in, and someone wasn't looking, and she backed right into my driver's side. And I saw her coming, and I ended up having real whiplash.
mm,
And I went to all of the conventional medical things, and all they did was really diagnose and gave me a collar. And I really didn't even understand whiplash was a real thing before that. But I
mm,
literally could not hold my head up from my shoulders, even lying in bed. And I had just started my clinical work in dentistry, so it was really not a opportune time to have a problem like that. And so I looked everywhere. That's where I first learned about acupuncture because acupuncture helped me a great deal. And then later, after I was already a dentist, I learned something called myofunctional therapy, which is myo, the muscles, and functional. And really, it had to do with how you swallow. Orthodontists, the people who move teeth and do
mhm,
braces and things, for years saw that they would move the teeth and then they'd have to put retainers in people's mouths. And everything would go back if they didn't do it. So this other area came about called myofunctional therapy, which was about retraining the swallow, the face and mouth muscles. And so I, my mom was alive. I took her down to Florida. We trained in it because I thought she was feeling a little low and she was a very smart person, had a lot of big career. I said, okay, maybe she'll come into my office and do this for people because she likes doing things. And so we trained in it. And it was from that moment on that I just said, oh, why am I not putting my tongue into this position all the time, as if I'm going to the gym and working out and doing
Mm.
it so that I have the strength to live my life in the most functional way. And what I learned from doing that was, and then I put it together with the beginning posture of Qigong, which is a Chinese medical form of, it's kind of like yoga, but what it does is it is intentionally bringing energy into our bodies that we're gathering from the external environment, above, below, all over. And so putting those two things together, I just was like, why aren't we all doing this? Not only does it improve every single bodily function, everyone. I mean, it's to me, it's unbelievable that we're not all doing this. And so for years, I said to myself, yeah, I taught everybody, I do it myself. And I said, change, I don't know, it just came to me, changing global health one swallow at a time. What happens to me is I get frustrated. Like, why isn't everybody doing this? Oh, I have to do this? Oh, fuck, I'm not so comfortable being out there. Okay, well, I guess I have to do it. I'm gonna do it. It may not feel good, but okay, I'll do it. I mean, yesterday I had spoken to a trademark lawyer, and she said, well, I said I already did a class on this. I called it Tongue, Tails, and Swallow Science. I did a bigger master class about it. And
Mm.
she said, well, you have to use the exact title you want to trademark. So I said, okay, well, I need to do a bonus activation. I'll use this. It's great to prep everybody for the following
Mm.
neuroplasticity frequency challenge because it creates more opening and physiologic space. So she said, yeah, do it. So I did it yesterday. Immediately, I emailed her. I said, file the papers now. It's out there.
Yeah.
And so this is what I've learned to do to stop the clutter is to make decisions,
Mm.
not hem and haw about, oh, I should have done it this way. I should have done it that way. No, stick your tongue up to the space slightly in back of your upper front teeth. Oh, let's do it for your audience. So
Yes, let's do it.
everybody listening will get to do this and
Hmm.
spread it to everybody you know, colleagues, uh, your groups, if you're a entrepreneur, your friends, your family, everybody, because what this will do is change life on this planet so there's less suffering. And
Oh, ow!
right, and the be all and end all of this is when there's less suffering, people get along better.
Yes.
The environment is easier externally because everything we say, do, feel, be gets put into not just our bodies, but the field of vibrational frequency around us. And if we don't like what's going on, and my way of helping the planet be a better place than what I found is to do these kinds of things so that I'm seeding the field. Other people do it politically, whatever. But this
Yeah,
is
this is
one
your
thing.
mission.
This is my mission, and this will serve. There is not one human this will not serve. So,
Beautiful. Let's
okay,
do
let's
it.
do it. Okay, so if I'm sitting, you can do the standing or sitting, but we're sitting, so we're going to do it this way. You can also do it while you're lying down, but it's easier to kind of start in a position where there's some gravity because you have a sense of the energies of your posture and your bones and your muscles. So, feet flat on the floor if you're sitting, scoot up in the chair. Just sit up as straight as you can, tuck under the tailbone, a little bit like a pelvic tilt, tuck in the belly a little bit, but not a lot because we don't want to walk around life sucking in all our genitals, our anus, our buttocks, because that creates all kinds of a structural pain. So notice where you're holding and breathe into the space like we talked about it on the exhale. And so what I do is I put myself in this posture. I think of my tippy top of my head going up to the sky, the ceiling, the heavens, the universe, wherever. My feet planted deep into the earth core. And of course, this is all imagination. And the earth core gives us gravity so that there's the space of the molten layer. And the only reason we have the upright posture is because of the molten layer of iron in the earth core. And that we can be super grateful for because otherwise we'd be like slithering on the ground like lizards and we couldn't do a lot of the things we do. And so we're in this upright posture and we check our shoulders. Where is our head? Sometimes I just go like this, release my shoulders a little bit, drop them. And then I just put the tip of my tongue slightly in back of my upper front teeth. You'll feel a little bit of a tissue, like it's the palate, but not all the way back.
Mm.
And an interesting point here is that in yoga, and also in Taoist medicine and philosophy, you can connect energetically the front and the back midline by putting your tongue further back. It's a Kundalini spot, but
Mm.
that's for another time. I just couldn't resist that. So we're going to put the tip of our tongue here. And instead of what happens with most people, oh, and teeth gently together, a breath apart, and lips not tightly together, but touching. And that's probably uncomfortable for most people on the planet because from multitudes of different things, whether we're chewing on a pencil, we're smoking something in our mouth, we're eating a lot. In fact, overeating is a symptom of this imbalance.
Mm.
And we don't think of it. We don't think that jaw tension would be part of why someone's overeating. But if we think about it, if we keep putting stuff in our mouth, we're releasing this space here. Now we
Mm.
can find other ways to release the space is the key. But anything you are repeatedly putting in your mouth, it could be sex addiction. It could be, and I don't mean that I mean addiction is really to me doing something repetitively that you don't want to do. I
Mm.
don't make a judgment about it because that's
Mm.
not my place. It's not my business. My two pillars. It's not my business and what gives me pleasure now under the umbrella of love and kindness.
Mhm.
So anyway, we're putting the tip of our tongue here and we're just in this position. And the sides of the tongue commonly are not used to being in the upright position because most people, the tongue goes forward and to the sides, putting a lot of pressure on the back molars and having a lot to do with gum and bone health, periodontal issues there. And also thrusting our necks forward, changing our posture, our breathing. Anybody who has sleep apnea or has trouble sleeping, this is critical for. And so, how do you change this? What do you really do? If you're not going to do myofunctional therapy, which you don't have to do. I mean, it's something that you could choose to do. But what I did for myself was I just took on the practice of putting my tongue to the spot, putting myself in this position whenever I thought of it. And I would use it as a check-in during the day, like I'm walking somewhere, and all of a sudden you know how we check in with ourselves. I see myself
Mm.
in a position. I go, oh, I don't make a thing about it. I don't say, oh, I have to change. Oh, I'm doing
Yeah.
something wrong. I just put myself in the other place. And when you do that repetitively and it feels normal to the body because the body is feeling in its most harmonious way, at some point it's not an effort because it becomes the auto reset. And that's the key with all frequency work. Why does it work and why is it not something we have to effort for our lives? Because it's the path of least resistance. It feels the most comfortable once we have created the practice.
Yeah. So once we've created this, and I do it kind of with the breath, I check in and see how am I breathing, where am I breathing, and then that allows me to, over time, my natural default state is a breath that feels very nourishing, that activates my parasympathetic nervous system, and that nourishes my body. And so taking the time to even check in with this of how's my posture, how am I walking, how am I standing, where's the positioning of my tongue, and then taking some swallows from that space with the gap in the teeth, the lips together. And then you can start creating that as your sense of like, okay, this is my baseline. This starts to feel good to my body, even if it feels unusual to begin with. And then, as you say, the knock on effects of this practice. What are we talking? Hormonal health. I know you're talking about
Okay,
lubrication of the
let
body.
me, yes, definitely. First of all, I'm a big believer in gut health because not just for what we're eating, but for what we're taking in about our lives, because
Mm,
how we receive our lives is everything about the gut. And if we're going to look at it literally, which is a good way to look at it because we're all eating food to survive, if you look at your mouth and your tongue and what's happening with the joint space, we didn't even talk about the space behind the ears, that where the TMJ is, where we have a very interesting joint space here that's different from a knee or a finger or an arm, because those are pretty much, we have rotational movements, but they're pretty much, we have a lot of free will with that. The
mm,
jaw has this biconcave disc behind our ears. The upper teeth are fixed in the skull. The lower teeth are like whiskers hanging off the skull here. So we usually think that teeth are like this, the upper and the lower are moving like this, but really the only thing that's moving is our head, the skull, and the
mm,
lower teeth. And so when we open and close, if we have been grinding or clenching, or if we're just like, even constipation will do that because
mm,
you're clenching anywhere in the body, it will put pressure on this joint space. And what happens? First of all, you can't digest properly because your mouth is not ingesting the food with the proper enzymes and hormones being made because your gut is effed up because you're like,
mm.
it just doesn't work the same way it would if you're like this. Come in,
Yeah.
come in. It's,
Yeah,
I welcome
creating that
you.
posture shift and that
Right.
that
And that posture shift changed my sense of being in the world. It gave me so much self-confidence. I realized one day after doing this for quite a while, I said, I feel like I'm moving, like I am hot shit. I'm here, I'm there. I can have what I want. It's a whole different mindset when you have the sense of comfort in being really fully in your upright posture.
hmm
And so that's so digestion, hormone health, and hormone health, wet pussy, hormone health. You're aging, sure. Are there times I may use a hyaluronic acid suppository? Yes, I'm 74. Things are different. However, it's not all that different when you do and look at your digestion because we think automatically, oh, I'm going through perimenopause. I need to look at how I can adjust my hormones. How can I replace what's not there anymore? The estrogen's going downhill. I need that for this. I need it for bones. I need it for this. I need it for that. I won't have libido, good sex without it. And the
yeah.
truth is, I never tell anybody what to do. But my suggestion is get your gut in shape before you do anything that's going to shift your hormonal balance because the hormones are made, well, let's put it really clearly. We take in fluids and food. They have to be broken down by our enzymes that are in our mouth and in the back of our throat. So if we don't have a posture of bringing it in like a dump truck undulating backwards.
Yeah.
Instead, we're like this. We're like, I'll take you in, but I'm going to throw you out. I mean, that looks ugly, and it is ugly because we're saying it's like the story of, and there's one thing I know we're probably going long, but there's one thing I definitely want to share with your viewers is how this relates to people pleasing and what tapping they can do to shift that simply.
Mm,
So anyway, digestion happens, the food goes into our throat, it goes into our small intestine, and in that place in the small intestine, what happens is the glands only run on very special fluids, and our glands are made, our hormones are made with our glands. So if the small intestine is unable to really make the fluids to nourish our glandular health that makes our hormones, then, it's not helpful. And
mm.
so that's why, and then also, I mean, posture is obvious, back pain, knee pain, I also would suggest people do bone marrow washing qigong because that adds to bone health. I do that
Mm.
almost every day. In my
I did
Awaken,
it with you last night, Joan. Followed your video.
you did the one in
I did.
Awaken. Yeah,
Yes.
have people go in there if you want because it's just so useful and it's pretty incredible. And
Mm.
but what I wanted to share also, well, there are other things it does, joint pains, um, healthy elimination, so you're not getting up all night to pee, so you're not, and this happens with older people frequently. Uh, Incontinence or just getting up more frequently disturbs sleep. The REM sleep isn't as good. And all of these things have to do with how we position ourselves in the world. And the tongue
Mm.
is a major part of that. And as our tongue gets stronger to stand up, everything becomes easier. And it's like going to the gym. It's
Yeah.
nothing. And why wouldn't we all do it? And that's why I wanted, I finally said, this is really important. I can stand on the sidelines and not, I mean, it's still, as much as I'm out there, Katie, I still have the feeling of being seen. I see
Mm.
that what came up for me there and what the tear is it's still partly uncomfortable for me to with all of the things I've done and do, say I'm a big fucking deal in the world.
Yeah.
Is why I'm saying this because I know this. I'm not a big fucking deal because of anything other than I keep telling the truth and I'm telling the world the truth by this mission. And it moves me.
Yeah. Oh, so beautiful, Joan. You are a big fucking deal. I knew that from the moment I saw you, and she's changing the world one swallow at a time. But I mean, really, we just scratched the surface on the magic that you bring in this world and the mission that you really have. And it is so bold and so powerful. It's changing lives. And that's why I really wanted to bring you on the podcast and just share your gifts and share your magic with the world. So thank you so much for everything you do, for who you are, and for sharing all of the wisdom of all of the broad collection of stuff that you have. It's just phenomenal. I love how some people in lockdown were making banana bread. You were learning bondage. I'm like, this is my favorite clip.
Yeah, I really, all my friends looked at me and said, what is she doing now? I go, oh, you can take this course. They're online. It's so easy. Just get rope.
Yeah, I love this. I mean, I know everyone is just going to be so obsessed with you. So, how do they find you? What do you have coming up? How can people come and play in your world?
Well, I would love for anybody that feels they want to make a shift really simply to join my neuroplasticity challenge. And I'll send the link to you so you could drop it. It's $33 because I like the idea there's an energy exchange. And what we're going to do, I'm going to have a Zoom kickoff. And I like the idea of bonuses and kind of a party idea because we're changing life like that so fast. And what I'm doing is I implant frequency work into everything because I'm very powerful. I'm owning that now. I can put my hands up and change life. So why don't I do that when I do my programs? I do it all the time now.
Yeah.
So the neuroplasticity challenge is going to be 10 plus 1 day. And every day it's going to be hosted in Telegram. So you don't have to feel like you have to be there at a certain time. I'm
Mm,
going to give a prompt of what you're going to do in that day that's different than you've done before. And automatically that change, that's like having a
yeah.
whole row of dominoes lined up. And, if you hit one, the whole row is going to go down if they're all one after the other. But when you hit you take one out and you do something differently, everything changes. And that's the
Yes.
neuroplasticity idea, is that you're going to start getting things like, where did this thought come from? Do I want it? Do I want to keep it? Do I want to say boom in the pussy bank or whatever? You have the choice then. What happens is you get so used to, after 10 days, seeing multitudes of choices. And
Mm,
that's why I would love people to do that, because when you have a different choice, you make different perspective shifts in your body, you feel better. And then the other thing is I have a Facebook group, Awaken Conscious Community, and I'm really starting to pour into it now. It's the
mm,
place that you found the bone marrow washing, Qigong. I'm going to pop a breath meditation in there and some other things. And I'm just going in there now and really speaking from the heart about things that maybe feel a little tender to say just in on my regular personal page or on Instagram. So if you want some really intel about the really juicy stuff, that's probably
mm.
where you're going to find it. And then I have an upcoming program, a mastermind that's going to be in a couple of months, where it's basically like, do you want to take the red pill or the blue pill? And depending on what pill you want to take, this is how you can adjust and dance in the frequency to do that. Because I have such a huge toolbox, and not that my way is the only way, but when you are not familiar with how to put yourself into different frequencies at will, it's very helpful to have someone be a mentor, which is what
Mm,
I've done in my life. I'm still working with my mentor after 30 years, and I've done many programs in the community that we're in here. I'm
mm.
in two big masterminds. So I've invested heavily in myself because I want to live the best life. And
Totally.
so, yeah, and people can always just contact me, DM me. They're always open. I respond personally. And yeah, I'm here to change the world. And it's one person at a time, one swallow at a time, because we deserve to enjoy this gift of our life the best we can.
100%. Dr. Joan, thank you so much for being here and for being living proof that a woman's power, pleasure, and radiance do not fade over time. They actually deepen. And if this conversation sparked something in you, I would love for you to rate the show, screenshot a review, and send it to me on Instagram. And I will send you my favorite meditation as a thank you. But if you have some great insights and wisdom that you picked up from this episode, do slide into our DMs as well and let us know. We always love to hear from you. Dr. Joan, what's your Instagram handle you can share with everybody?
It's at Dr. Joan Borden. And I'm going
Beautiful.
to just take a screenshot of us and post it because I love that.
Yeah. Let's do it. Oh, thank you so much for joining us on this episode. Remember, honeys, you don't need to earn your softness, prove your worth, or settle as the years go by. You get to have it all. And this is where we remember how. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katie. It was so great to be with you.